You hear my perspective on real estate topics. Occasionally, you will hear the expert thoughts and opinions of our experienced agents at Boston Connect Real Estate. Be a part of our roundtable. If you have any questions during the show, please call 781-837-4900. We love to talk real estate. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you like to listen to podcasts at Talk Real Estate Roundtable. If you would like a one-on-one consultation with me and my team to discuss your real estate needs, you can connect with me at bostonconnect.com or 781-826-8000. Now, sit back, relax, take good notes, and let's talk real estate.
And hello to all our South Shore neighbors. You are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. My name is Melissa Wallace, and I am joined live and in studio by the one and only Mary Horton tonight.
Hello.
Hello.
I know this is so, I love being in here. Anytime, I feel like every time I come, I'm like, oh, it's so weird, but it kind of feels like home. Kind of feels like,
well, like I'm supposed to be here. Yesterday, I'm on a Teams meeting with Mary and Sharon and Julia all the way from Maine, and we're sitting there, and Sharon goes, oh, do you have a guest for tomorrow night? I'll do it. I'm around, whatever. And it ended up being you guys do have an appointment, so Sharon's at the appointment right now, but I was like, yeah, Mary, I was going to ask if you wanted to go on the show, and your face was just like, sure, I'll do it. But you're so good at it. You used to be on the show every single week, so I don't know why you get nervous or whatever it is that you get.
No, it's like riding a bike. No, I love to be here.
It's like riding a horse. I like that better.
I can do that too.
I'm not really good at riding a bike. I tend to crash every time.
Yeah, I have a story. I won't share it today, but I have a story. Me and bikes do not mix either. Yeah. So let's both go for the horses.
But yes, Mary Horton, you are joining me tonight, and thank you very much. And of course, every time you are on, we are either talking about buyer agency, we're talking about, being a buyer's agent, or we're talking about new construction, because you are the go-to for pretty much both of those sort of worlds and knowledge in those worlds. So, and I want to give you a moment to reintroduce yourselves to all of our listeners in case they haven't caught one of your shows in the past.
Oh, awesome.
And I'm going to go get some water.
Yes. So I am team member to Sharon McNamara. So we are together, we are the McNamara Horton group. I primarily work on our team. We kind of do everything, but I primarily work on the team as our buyer's agent. So I work with a lot of first-time home buyers, and I also work in the new construction field. So right now, Sharon and I have two communities, new construction communities, one being Cochise Estates in West Bridgewater, which you guys might have heard us talk about before, but that one consists of duplex-style homes and single-family homes. We have 92 units there. At this point in time, we're probably 60 to 70% sold out. So we've been there since 2022. So that community, even though we still have plenty of inventory in there, that community is coming to an end. And then Cushing Trails, we have another new community that we have over here in Hanson. That is 40 duplexes, and there we're probably a good 50% sold out.
Wow, I didn't even realize that one.
Well, 40 goes really quick. So when we say 20 duplexes, 40 units, 40 goes really quick. So we have Hayford. We have two streets that are within that community. There's Howland Trail, and then there's Hayford Trail. Howland Trail, I would say, is 80% sold out. Maybe even more than that, maybe about 85% sold out, and we're just getting ready to release Hayford Trail quite soon. So I spend most of my time, if I'm not working with buyers, at one of our new construction communities. So on the weekends, that's where you can find me most often.
I don't know how you keep it all together, because I certainly wouldn't be able to. I don't know. I mean, I helped you guys when you had Copperwood and Bristol, and, they were smaller communities. What, Copperwood was like 32, 34?
34.
34. Yeah. And Bristol was, what, 8? 7, 8. See, and that was it. That was my limit.
Yeah. Well, it definitely is, I think, we've worked with the same developer, and Sharon's worked with multiple developers and builders over the years. And I always say I got started in new construction. So when I started in real estate and when I met Sharon, I started working with her 13 years ago at Crescent Hill Farms, which was being built by Jim Wheeler at the time over here in Pembroke. And I kind of learned right off the bat what new construction looks like. So I guess I caught the bug a little bit. Yeah. But it is, I advocate, and the last show that I did, I was advocating for buyer's agents in new construction, because I think when you have a buyer's agent that is super honed into what new construction looks like, and how to best help their clients navigate that, what to expect, all of the different nuances, how different builders could potentially operate, they are worth their weight in gold. I really do believe that. So I think that's what you can bring to the table.
Yeah. Did you say how long you've been with Boston Connect Real Estate?
In
in your introduction, you're already into your sales part of your brain.
Yep. No. So I've been with Boston Connect on a team with Sharon for 13 years, going on 13 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Which is crazy, because I don't know where time went. We always joke, and we'll do the math. Like, I started when I was freshly 21.
Yeah.
So if everybody do the math, you can figure out how old I am.
Yeah.
And it's oftentimes, I look back on it and I'm like, wow, like, where did the years go? One day we should do a show on what it takes, because I'm seeing a lot of younger, like the younger generation, like my actually niece. My niece is 23. She just approached me. She lives in Pennsylvania. Approached me the other day, and she was like, "Well, Auntie, what do you think what about me getting into real estate?" And I was like, let's talk about why.
Let's talk about why you want to get into it.
Why you want to talk about getting into real estate. I think it would be interesting to do a show on everything that comes along with being a real estate agent, because I think, and if I'm just being frank, this has nothing to do with our topic today, but real estate in general can be glamorized in social media, and it can
go in the opposite direction too. Like there's some stigma that goes along with being in real estate. Like, let's just be honest about that part.
Well, there's your used car salesman, and then there's your $1 million listing, and then there's everybody in between.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think the glamorization is what everybody sees on, Netflix and all of that.
Oh, yeah. Have you watched Ryan's new show?
I want to, but I haven't.
I know. I hear it's really good.
I met him once,
Yeah, so did Sam. He wouldn't do a group photo. He wanted an individual photo.
He wouldn't jump in the photo with the girls. He wanted he had a little man crush.
Yeah, he wanted his own photo with Ryan Serhant. But we let him have it. We gave him crap for it.
It was my birthday, too.
Yes, it was your 30th birthday. So that was what? Let's do the math there, too.
4 years ago?
4 years ago. But yes, we are live on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, all that fun stuff. So be sure to follow us, Boston Connect Real Estate, Sharon McNamara, and the McNamara Horton Group. And I believe we have Larry in studio. Is that correct, Larry?
You believed is correct, yes.
I believe correctly.
You believe correctly.
Believe correctly. You can text or call Larry at WATD at 781-837-4900 if you want to join in on the discussion or just say hi to us. Again, 781-837-4900. If you're too shy, you can leave a comment on Facebook or YouTube or anywhere, and I'll find it. I will find it, and we'll talk with you.
Please ask questions.
Please ask questions. We love it when we're interactive. Past couple shows we've been having some callers call in and a lot of interaction on Facebook and Instagram. So let's keep it up. We love it. Okay, so whenever you join us, Mary, you pretty much always talk about new construction, like I said in the beginning of the show, new construction or, being a buyer's agent and sort of, from a buyer's perspective, working with a buyer's agent and how important that is. But tonight we want to do a little bit of a new spin on some of the conversations that we typically have. Obviously, new construction is a very prominent factor in your business and Sharon's business. So we'll keep it relevant with the new construction. But I just want to go sort of through the process of, hey, I show up at one of your open houses, now what? Like I feel like sometimes they might be a little doe-eyed, like,
Yeah.
what do I do? Like, oh yeah, like, you can be distracted by the shiny things, very much so, and then you get into the nitty-gritty and you realize, like, you're building a house.
Oh yeah, and what's going to be expected of you as you're building that house.
There's a process, yes, that you have to go through, and make sure that you adhere to sort of these dates and these timelines and everything. So why don't you walk me through sort of what you wanted to talk about tonight when it comes to the process of purchasing new construction?
Yeah, absolutely. I think last time we heavily focused on, bringing a buyer to new construction, reserving, getting to purchase and sale, and what that looks like. So tonight, I wanted to talk more about what happens after you sign that purchase and sales agreement. So, of course, again, you can go back and listen to our previous show to find out what happens beforehand, but what happens after. So oftentimes, especially if buyers have a buyer's agent, as they should, we're going to require, and this is super important, that all communication, first and foremost, starting off, all communication should have all parties on it. And when I say all parties, it's buyer, buyer's agent, seller, and seller's agent. So most oftentimes in the new construction field that we work in, you're not going to be connected with the builder, so to speak. Like oftentimes buyers will come in and we'll meet at an open house and they say, okay, so next steps, I sit down with the builder, I go over the plans, and I go over, everything that I want to build in this house. And I say, well, no, not really with us. So with us, Boston Connect Real Estate, Sharon and Mary, we almost operate as that middle person.
Right.
So we are essentially the liaison between you and the builder.
And I will say that even the builder has somebody on their side as well. So I'm talking about, the girls who work over, or even the foremans and stuff that work over in the developments and even at Stonebridge that you're constantly in communication with. So they're sort of things flow through them too. Information flows through them too. So,
and that can be a little bit, this is more on the expectation front than the processy front, but that can be a frustration point for some buyers because buyers seem, or oftentimes it just seems easier to get the information directly from the source, right? It's like I'm going to go directly to the builder and that builder is going to give me the information that I'm seeking.
Yeah.
And, or, the buyers oftentimes will circumvent their buyer's agents for not thinking that there's any harm in it, not doing it intentionally, but go directly to the seller's agent, myself, to get what they feel is a quicker response. The reason why most listing agents, and actually this is how, I guess, so I'm going to revert real quick and talk about the purchase and sales agreement. The purchase and sales agreement for one of our communities is upwards of 40 pages.
Oh, I did not know that.
So once we've, done all the funds, we did your reservation. We talked about building what house style you want. We talked about all the fun things that you want to see in it. You're comfortable with the pricing. You're going to get a purchase and sales agreement from the builder's office that is incredibly detailed. And the amount of clauses that exist within this purchase and sales agreement is intense. And the reason a clause is anything really put into this agreement to either protect buyer or seller or set an expectation for how the process is going to work. One of the clauses that we have in our contracts is that buyers are explicitly not allowed to contact the listing agent directly. So that can be really tough, but there's a reason that exists, right? So there's chain of command when it comes to how things should flow, and it's not chain of command. It's the flow of communication to make sure that all parties are going through their active representatives.
Yeah.
And being represented throughout the process. When one of those parties gets cut out, then representation kind of falls to the wayside, and now we're not using that flow of communication anymore.
I would think that these clauses are very much like, the warning labels on certain things, like don't use a toaster oven in the bathtub, like type of things. Like like the warning labels, like, oh, don't rip this off, whatever.
Yeah.
I used to think that you could go to jail if you ripped the tag off of
it does say warning.
Yeah,
warning.
It does say tag off of a mattress. But, the reason why they have those labels on is because somebody somewhere made a whoopsies
at some point.
And somebody learned a lesson afterwards. So I think that, when it comes to these clauses, it probably is because something along the way, after building thousands of homes,
Yep.
You get into a groove, and then this is just what the policy is. This is what the clause is. This is what, this is how we do things.
And everything, so if you look at, it's all standard, very standard language. Oftentimes, the builder, our builder specifically, we generate this purchase and sales agreement. He does not allow, or they do not allow any changes to that purchase and sales agreement. So right now, that clause about not being able to contact me directly as the listing agent was just brought into one of our contracts as a point of contention. They're like, well, but why can't we contact Mary? And, what if we need a quick response and our buyer's agent isn't responding? And it's not really meant for those extenuating circumstances. It's just on a general basis to make sure that all parties are actively being represented at every given point in time. So if communication, if the buyer's agent is being left out of communication and now communication from buyer is going directly through me, I actually am the one who, like, me and the buyer lose our protections, if that makes sense. So buyer no longer has that advocate on their side.
Right.
And then I no longer have the third party person to be to bounce off of, to say, this is kind of how the process goes, this is normal, yada, yada, yada. So that's a huge expectation that I think needs to be set, and I try and set with buyers at the very beginning, so that they know what the flow of communication is going to be.
Well, I also want to say that there has been times over the many years where, there's no buyer's agent, no, I don't have an agent, no, I don't have an agent. You get to a certain point in the process, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, I do have an agent. Setting the expectation the first time you meet. Do you have a buyer's agent? If so, they got to be a part of the whole entire process.
And it's not, and buyers shouldn't be weary, I think, and then this is a touchy subject. Buyers are often under the impression that if they go directly to the listing agent, they are going to get a better deal from the builder, right? Because the builder now is no longer paying out a buyer's agent compensation. So they think in their heads that if it's beneficial for me to not have that buyer's agent because it's going to save me a little bit of money. Well, wrong. It's saving the builder money in reality.
Yeah.
Could he be generous enough, or she, whoever is the builder is, could they be generous enough to pass some of that savings along to you? Maybe. Very likely, no. But contractually, they are not obligated to give you anything, really.
Right.
And you lose that advocate through the process. You no longer have adequate representation for what could be a 6 to 9 month process of building a house.
And if, a buyer's agent is not a part of a meeting, or if they're not a part of something, they're in this world every single day, especially if they're full-time doing this, they may know a question that buyers don't know to ask. And that is what's so important, of being a part of these meetings, showing up and just essentially holding their hand along the entire way, is because the buyer is not actually building the house themselves. Possibly they've never built a home before, and they might not know the questions to ask. And getting back to, getting higher value or anything, I'll tell you where your value is buying a model home.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Buying a model home, but
getting a deal, buying a model home.
Also, I mean, I like to think of myself as a very transparent person, and I don't care if you have a buyer's agent or not. I'm going to tell you how I feel about the selections that you're making from a resale standpoint. If I think it's a good decision, where I think money is best spent. Oftentimes, granted, I'm not forcing my opinions on anybody. Oftentimes, people are asking me like, "Hey, what do you see most commonly done, and where do you see the greatest value add for these houses?" But it is helpful. I collaborate with buyer's agents all the time who bring information to me that I was like, oh, you know what? That's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
We might want to consider doing that in the future. So I think there really is a reason for that role and that advocacy throughout the process. So setting the expectation that flow of communication should be going through that agent, and your agent should be there for every appointment, like Melissa's saying, is huge. And we do try and set that right off the bat. One thing that I am noticing right now, and unfortunately we're running into it, and Sharon and I have to have a conversation about how to proceed and how to handle this, is we are seeing a lot of buyer's agents kind of taking a back seat with new construction, our new construction purchases, and not really making their presence known, which we oftentimes see become... It's not that it's detrimental to the client per se, right? Because the client feels oftentimes comfortable, but it's detrimental to the buyer's agent by not, staking their claim in the process.
Well, why do you think that's happening?
Actually, that's a great question.
Thank you. I'm full of them.
Well, I think it's hard to, if you're not familiar with the questions to ask.
Yeah.
In general, building a new house can be incredibly intimidating. Some of my favorite questions from buyer's agents in our new developments are, "Hey Mary, I have a client. They're super interested. We want to put in an offer. What does your process look like? I'm actually not familiar with new construction, so are you okay if I ask you a lot of questions throughout this process?" And I say, absolutely. Ask me all the questions in the world.
I'd rather you ask the question than
assume.
assume, and it's wrong.
Like, that's huge. But oftentimes it can be incredibly intimidating. They don't feel as if they have the answers for the client. Therefore, when you aren't knowledgeable, sometimes it can feel easier to avoid than it can be to say.
Because you feel like you're not giving your value.
Yeah.
But your value is also being there and being supportive and being able to just freely ask questions.
And being that confidant for your buyer to say, hey, we're in this together. We're gonna figure it out together, and I'm gonna do my best to, nail down this process for you. I was just thinking. I'm thinking of all the buyer's agents that I'm working with currently. I'm thinking about all the ones
I can only imagine them being like, the list is so long. I feel like with having that many under agreement and so few still available at both developments, I feel like you're like a whole list. Like, okay, that one. I don't know how you keep the numbers straight. And
it is. I would rather have an agent who is incredibly proactive and kind of almost maybe too proactive to the point where I'm like, okay, we gotta take a slow down.
Yeah.
Than I would the one that completely disappears.
Yeah.
I'm working with all different types in this moment in time. I can tell you, the ones who are incredibly proactive will have repeat clients coming down their way, right? When these buyers are thinking of selling in 5 years, they'll be calling them. They're not going to be calling me.
Right.
The ones who aren't there for their buyers, I can tell you I have a better relationship at this point with their client than they do, and I don't think they'll be calling them again. And that's to nobody's fault but their own,
right?
Which is kind of sad.
It is kind of sad.
But that's just a general, in my opinion, setting expectation for how the communication process within a new construction transaction should flow. It's going to flow buyer's agent, seller's agent, seller, and then back down the rung same way. Something that we implement, another layer of that expectation that we implement is every week we have a conference call with our builder. So if you call me on Monday, our conference calls just happen to be on Wednesday. If you call me on Monday, if it's something that I can get a quick response for, I'm absolutely going to do that for you. But if it's something that's going to require me to get multiple people involved, Wednesday's going to be your day. So by setting the expectation.
Put your questions in before Wednesday, people. You hear that?
If something is coming, down the road and you need a response from me, if you need it quickly, I think it's going to if just having in your head that Wednesday is your day, then I can get back to you. Like, there's multiple text messages that I have pinned in my phone right now for buyers that are looking for questions. My time to get the builder all to myself is that Wednesday. And I'm going to say, hey, I need to get X, Y, and Z. And then I can give these buyers an update afterwards. So kind of going through that is always good.
I think it's good to go over the communication expectations, but why don't we switch gears to maybe the financial expectations?
For sure.
So, you put in the deposit for, the reservation, and then now you sign purchase and sales. Financially, what is it that a buyer is responsible for moving forward from that point?
So after deposit, so for us, it's $1,000 reservation and a 10% of the total purchase price deposit with the purchase and sales agreement. For us specifically, there is no other funds that are required to be put down between the time you sign your purchase and sales agreement and the closing. Doesn't matter if that's 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, however long the process is.
You're still building the house.
You're still building. We as the builder are if you think about it, we're financing the build. However, if there are changes that are being made throughout the process, so if you sign the purchase and sales agreement with one set of upgrades, and then when we go to do your selections, typically once we sign purchase and sale, we like to do our custom selections within 2 weeks. And I know that sounds crazy when you're saying, okay, I'm not closing for 6 months. I'm going to push you to get all of these selections done within 2 weeks is my goal. Sometimes it can go into 3 or 4 weeks, but no further past 4. The reason for that is buyers, it can be very overwhelming. I'm going to show you lots of tile. I'm going to show you lots of cabinets, lots of countertops. If you have absolutely no idea what you like, or if you are very specific about what you like, it might take us more time. There might be multiple conversations that we have to have. And the sooner we start that process, the quicker we can go with the selections, or the quicker we can get your answers, any custom pricing that we might potentially need. And also, people don't realize, but kitchens take sometimes 12 weeks to come in. So from ordering to arrival time, arrival time is not when it's it usually is when it's installed, but arrival time should probably be a month at least before closing, or about 3 to 4 weeks before closing. If that's the reality, we need 4 months, 4 months just to get a kitchen from order to completion. So now your 6 month timeline, we just whittled you down to 2 months where we really have to fully focus in on your selections at the very, very beginning. So it's not so crazy to think that you're making all of these selections super, super early in the process, and then you're not going to see it come to fruition until the very end.
It must be hard to envision a whole entire house, and you're making all these decisions. It's how do you now you've seen a million houses be built, and I'm sure it's easy for you, but how do you pick all that? I'm just sitting here I don't know. I know in my house, I know the things that I would change, but if I was to build my house from the ground up, I'd probably be I don't know. I like white cabinet.
Well, you can get lost in the sauce for sure.
I don't know, brown hardwood floors. I don't know.
Well,
How do you pick everything?
We definitely encourage people to come with a vision. And sometimes it's going to be, I say selections will go, selections meetings only go bad one of 2 ways. They go bad when you have, again, no idea what you want, right? So I can lead you in any direction. I can tell you what I like, but that's not necessarily what you like. I can tell you what I see, but that's not necessarily what you like. Or if you're so very, very specific on what you're looking for that maybe the slightest difference, if we don't have something to match, it kind of throws the whole scheme off. But oftentimes people are falling right in the middle. You know, if you have some type of vision, if you lean towards something, I can kind of guide the conversation. And we don't overwhelm with selections either. Like I went into Blue Tile the other day in Rockland, and I don't know if you've ever been in there, but if you ever have a chance.
I think I went there once with you.
I think you did. If you ever have a chance to go in there, I'm telling you, you didn't know this much tile in the whole entire world existed, number one, and all the different colors that you can choose. That's not what we're doing. We're not sending buyers directly to suppliers to get that super overwhelmed feeling. You're sitting down with us in a controlled environment. We have 20 tile choices. We have 20 granite choices. We have, 30 carpet choices, maybe 10 different flooring choices. So we narrow it down to what is probably most trendy or most popular today, so that people can kind of pick. And then if for some reason you're like, Mary, I'm paying $1 million for this house and I absolutely hate everything, well, we'll revisit a conversation.
Yeah.
We'll talk about what building a custom house looks like. But I don't know. I like that part. I find it very fun.
I know you do. I was
actually recently, I had a selections meeting that went until almost 11 o'clock at night, and our site foreman, Dan, he has Ring cameras. They keep track of me no matter what I'm doing from a safety standpoint, not because they don't trust me.
A woman is there until 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday.
And he texts me, he goes, "What are you doing? Does your husband know where you are?" And I was like, yeah, he has my GPS location at any given point in time. However, should I be here right now? Probably not. Probably not. It's a Sunday night.
That was a selections meeting?
Yeah.
They don't always happen that late, everybody.
No, they do not. The homeowner happened to be flying in and flying out very quickly, so we made exception. But Mary is not available at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. I'm sorry.
Definitely not. She's not.
I'm usually in bed.
Yeah. Laura Charles. Is that Lois
or
Louis?
No. Louis Charles.
Louis Charles. Louis Charles says Mary is the best. Kristen Howlett is watching us. Karen Monroe. Hi. Tracy Mann. Hi, everybody's watching us. Yay. If you have any questions, let us know. Again, the number at the studio, 781-837-4900. You can call or text that number. And we're live everywhere, so just find our video and give us a thumbs up. Oh, wait, we just got a thumbs up. And wave to us. Hello. Okay, about 14 minutes left in the show. So financially, moving forward, you've given your deposit.
Yeah. You've given your deposit. You are not financially responsible for any carrying costs when it comes to building the house up until closing for us. If you make changes, yes, we are going to require those changes be paid for upfront. Those are typically in the form of a check to the builder, the builder's LLC. But otherwise, from a mortgagee standpoint, you are not paying mortgage, you are not paying taxes, you are not paying insurances. We take care of the carrying costs, or the builder holds the carrying costs through the build. That's, in my opinion, how you want to build a house, because the builder is then quite motivated to finish the house for you, right? So as he takes out all of these expenses, he pays for all of these things, he has an obligation to close on it because he wants to make his money and pay those subcontractors back.
Right. So if somebody does make selections, they choose to do upgrades and everything like that, that is something that they would be financially responsible for.
If it's done after the purchase and sales agreement.
Yes. So they go through, maybe they're, doing a walkthrough at some point during the process and say, oh, you know what, I really would love to have, more recessed lighting in here. I'd really love to have, I don't know if at what point in the process can you not change the floors?
Well, that is a good point, because you can't make changes throughout the entire process.
Yeah.
I was
just going to say, now I've decided to do hardwood floors in here, but could you say, no, I'm sorry, you're going to have to do that afterwards?
I mean, if you think about building the house in a milestone category, so milestone number 1 is the reservation. Milestone number 2 is the purchase and sales agreement. Milestone number 3 is your selections. Milestone number 4 is the house being framed. So we can do an electrical walkthrough. Electrical walkthrough is the time where we're talking about all of those electrical adds that you might potentially want to do. That's your opportunity to add electrical.
Yeah.
Once they start roughing in, right?
It's hard to make changes there.
Yep. So now we've surpassed. We can no longer make those changes. At roughing, once your selections are submitted too. So if I go back to milestone number 3, your selections, you might have a little buffer to make changes. Like, you just slept on it and you're like, oh my gosh, I know I signed this paperwork and, I wanted these really dark gray floors. And now I'm thinking I want, I want wide plank and I want
You just got a golden retriever and now the hair's going to be everywhere and now you need lighter floors.
It's keeping you up at night. You just can't sleep. You might have like a 2-week buffer to get to me and make that change before they're going to say, I'm sorry, the order has already gone out.
Yeah.
And once the order is placed, it's placed in multiple different areas. It's not just, hey, you signed a piece of paperwork with Mary. Mary gave it to the builder.
Yeah.
It went to a whole team at our builder's office that then put it on order with multiple different vendors and lined up different contractors.
Because you're not just getting the floor, you're also getting the people who are installing the floor. You're getting everything. You got to line them all up because, one might have to happen before the other, whether it's the floors, the walls, the electrical, the whatever. There's a process and there's not every single person working on that house can be in the house at the exact same time.
Absolutely.
It'd be hard.
I mean, they do, we call it stacking subs. It's not fun for the subs, nor is it fun for the builder, and they prefer not to do it that way. So we try not to. But so there are certain points where changes can no longer be made, and that's another expectation that we try and set very early on so that you're not disappointed when you come to us and say, hey, is it too late to do X, Y, and Z? And ultimately the answer is no. Or no, I'm sorry, we can't accommodate that at this time.
Yeah. Is it too late? Yes.
Yep, sorry, we missed that.
I think probably one of the most important things about the whole finance part about it is, setting a realistic budget and making sure that, that's something that you're comfortable with moving forward, because like anything else, like a resale or anything, at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to be left there to pay all the bills afterwards. So, you setting an expectation for your budget and everything, just like anything that you would purchase, I think it's even more important when it comes to new construction because people can get distracted by the new shiny things. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to afford it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's not a conversation that I'm typically getting into with buyers, but it is something that we talk about when we're looking at prioritizing what's most important so that the budget can be used most efficiently.
But I want to get into, now we only have like 8 minutes left. Oh, geez. It goes quick. It goes quick. Staying on timeline. I think, setting the expectation to stay on timeline. What are some of the milestones, again, that you moving forward need to be aware of?
So, absolutely. So, I left off in milestone number 5, electrical walkthrough. So that's going to be when your house is framed. And it's not every builder does this, but our developer does this. So when your house is framed, you have an opportunity to go through, make sure that you're happy with the framing. Everything is as it's supposed to look based off of your plan. Your closets are where they're supposed to be. And we're going to talk about electrical throughout the house. That, when we call for an electrical walkthrough, it's typically, you might hear from me, hey, in about 2 weeks, start thinking about when we can do our electrical walkthrough. We're going to be ready for it. But when I call for it, when I actually call your agent and I say, hey, so I want to set up the electrical walkthrough, it can't be a month from now.
Yeah.
It has to be something that we're doing in the immediacy.
Yeah.
And you should have already known at that point via an update from myself or from your listing agent that the house framing is underway at the house and to be expecting this appointment to come. That's a huge one. If we delay electrical walkthrough, it will delay the closing timeline because we can't inspect, we can't insulate, we can't close up the walls until all of those rough conversations are completed. Once the walls are closed up, there's really not another opportunity for buyers to be going through the house until the closing, right? That's really the only time kind of mid-process that we need you, and we're going to say, hey, we need to do this immediately.
Yeah.
You know, there's no room for delay here.
Yeah.
Because it will absolutely set the timeline off. Another expectation that I always set with buyers is your timeline to close is always a best case scenario. New construction is, I call it like a living, breathing animal because there's so much that goes into building these houses and so many people that you rely upon to do that, not just on the builder side, not just the subcontractors, but it's town officials, it's different suppliers, it's supply chain delays. Like there's so many people throughout the process that everybody kind of needs to come together and work in a perfect unison, succinct unison in order for these houses to get built in a timely manner. But if you talk to me, I'm going to say, if I'm a planning person, I'm going to tell you this is a best case scenario. 6 months is going to be a best case scenario for us to complete your house. But I would build in a 30-day buffer. I would build in just in case 30 days at the end of our contract date, just in case something happens with the bank, something happens with the town, something happens with supply chain throughout the process. If we need to be able to move that closing date, I don't want it to come as a surprise, as if you never knew that was even a remote possibility.
Right.
Unfortunately, it is a rarity for new construction to be on time.
Yeah.
I like to say that we are all the time, but
there's just so many
sometimes
factors.
we are, sometimes we're not.
There's just so many factors that go into it. I mean, there's the weather, there's subcontractors, there's, making sure that the paperwork is all signed and ready to go, because you're not putting anything in the ground until it is,
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
But sometimes you can't help but that it rains how much rain have we had?
Well, this season specifically, I know one of our houses was actually delayed, and it was significantly delayed, and and the reason for delay was because the site was excavated and the hole for the foundation was dug, and we literally could not get a dry more than 24 hours. So we couldn't get the hole dry enough to get the forms in for the foundation, so we could get the foundation walls in, and we were delayed. But that was entirely weather dependent, right?
Yeah.
There was nothing that we could do about it.
Yeah, so sometimes the factors are predictable, sometimes they're not predictable. You can, you have some sort of hold over them or anything, but when it comes to weather, it's like the weathermen they don't know what's going on. Okay, so wasn't it supposed to rain all day today? Did it even rain at all?
Let's be honest. I'm pretty sure we live in Florida now.
Yeah. I mean, it's
you would know.
It's pouring and sunny at the same time. So we've officially traveled to Florida.
Yeah,
here. Boston Connect.
We live in the South.
Yeah, we live in the South. Only 3 minutes left. You're gonna have to come back within the next couple weeks to sort of finish up the discussion and sort of go over some of the things that we didn't get to today. But why don't you give your contact information out to all of our listeners, and if anybody wants some more information about your developments, where can they reach you?
So if you're interested in learning anything new construction, feel free to reach out to me. My phone number is 774-444-7761. You can also email me at mary@bostonconnect.com. We also have an email, a team email, if you're looking to get in touch with Sharon and myself, just Sharon and Mary at bostonconnect.com. But we're happy to help you learn about new construction. You're welcome to visit us at any of our communities. We have Cochise Estates, like I said, we host open houses every weekend, Saturdays and Sundays from 10 to 2 over there. And then at Cushing Trails, same thing, we're Saturdays and Sundays from 10 to 12. Yeah. So that allows us to bebop kind of between the two communities every weekend and get all of our selections done and all that fun stuff.
And you send people from each development to the other one, right?
Yeah, we absolutely do, because they're very, very different products. So if Cushing Trails doesn't meet your needs, potentially we have something over at Cochise Estates. And if neither of those do, the builder has multiple other communities that he's working on currently, and that we have the ability to lean into and kind of product that we can show.
And also, it might be difficult to sort of see the vision. So you want to see a model home. You want to see, even a community that has some people living in it, and you feel the liveliness in there. But that is our outro music. So, Mary, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for
Painless,
having me.
Painless.
Like riding a bike.
Like riding a bike.
Ride a horse.
Ride a horse. If you want to get in touch with Mary, her contact information is on bostonconnect.com, or you can always, call the office, 781-826-8000. We will be sure to get you in touch with Mary and Sharon and any of the new construction developments that they're working on. I will be back here live Saturday morning at 8 a.m. with the one and only Sharon McNamara. Not sure what we're talking about, but it will be about real estate, I promise. So tune in again Saturday at 8 a.m. I'll be back with Sharon. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.